Good afternoon. You're very welcome to Citi TV's special coverage on the spillage of the Volta Dam in Ghana. My name is Apioko. It's 15:02 GMT, wherever you are in the world. I hope that you can see us, you can hear us loudly and clearly because we have a lot to tell you. Since the spillage began, we are looking at about 30,000 people having been displaced. We're looking at about 9 districts across 3 regions of Ghana having been affected. The situation is dire. And the dam continues to be spilled. So the worst days are definitely not over yet. We're going to have a discussion. We're going to let you know where we are, how far we've come, the kind of relief systems that are being put in place by the government, of course, by us here at Citi FM and Citi TV as well, in collaboration with the VRA, that's the Volta River Authority, the gentlemen and ladies who have jurisdiction over the Volta Dam and everything that has been happening with it, with NADMO as well, and all the other relevant stakeholders. I'm not here alone. I have a team with me who understand what has been happening. They're up to speed with the statistics, with the information, and they're here to give you everything you need to know. So I'm joined this afternoon by Bernard Avle. He is the host of the Citi Breakfast Show on 97.3 Citi FM. He's been leading the conversation with his team on the radio side of things, also pushing relief efforts from our side and raking in, you know, the kind of support that we need from you as our viewers and our listeners as well. And he'll tell you what he's found out there. We also have Richard Della Sky. He's also a member of the Citi Breakfast Show team, and he's very, very active when it comes to Citi News and all that we do here at Citi FM and Citi TV. And we also have the man, Fred Duho. He's been in the field from day one. He's seen it all, he's heard it all, and he has updates for you as well. Gentlemen, you're very welcome. Good afternoon.
Thank
Good
you.
afternoon. Honored to be here.
How are you feeling?
Well, I mean, we are disappointed, but we have hope.
There's always hope.
People who are contributing are giving us hope that it's possible to make a change in the lives of people in distress.
There's always hope. There's always hope. All right, so let's put this into context. Let's just backtrack a little bit. Notice was first served on the 4th of September. We saw a press release of sorts. By the 15th of September, the spillage began. But what we're seeing now is really as a result of what has happened over the past weekend from about the 12th of October up until today, the 18th. So where are we now? What have we seen so far? And why is this such an important conversation? I'll start with you, Bernard.
Well, so we started our coverage a week ago, and it's been back to back. As you rightly said, the Volta River Authority served notice it was going to do spillage. This is sometime in May. Started spilling in September. Started with 20,000 cubic feet per second, increased to 30, 40, 50. Initially, they thought the water level as they spilled would go down because they had some assumptions about climate and the fact that there was going to be a dry spell. It appears there was much more water coming in from northern Togo, northern Ghana, and Burkina Faso than they anticipated. So they've had to increase their spillage rates to almost 190,000 cubic feet per second. So that has affected the communities downstream. The rain has been falling both upstream and downstream, worsened situation. There are about 10 districts downstream of the Volta, from Lower Manya, Krobo, Asuojaman, all the way to Keta, which have borne the brunt of this. There are 2 dams, the Akosombo Dam, which is the bigger one, then there's the one dam which is at Akuse. So those are the top lines. We understand about 30,000 people have been displaced so far. He will update you on the matter. There's a inter-ministerial team led by the Chief of Staff that's coordinating the activities. And there is debate about whether to declare state of emergency or not. The last point, Citi TV, Citi FM has launched a campaign to raise funds to get support for the victims who've been affected, because as we go around the country and we see the devastation, we realize that there's one thing to report, there's another thing to use our convening power. So in a nutshell, this is where we are.
All right, let me find out. When we last spoke on Monday, we were looking at 4 spillage gates from the Volta Dam having been opened out of 12, a
8
total
out of
of 12.
8.
And now we're at 8.
And then we are told that it's probably going to go higher. My conversation with the VRA suggests that they have the capacity to spill up to 1 million cubic feet per second. They would not do that irresponsibly. But the concern was that if the water level kept rising, could the dam withstand the rise? And they were saying that we've opened 8 out of 12. If we have to raise it to all the 12, we would. That's point number one. Point number two, Bon as well as about 14, Fred, and they've opened probably about, I don't know.
15.
Yeah, they have about 15.
12.
They've opened about 12. So they can also, so the conversation about whether you need to have more dams downstream to manage the flow. So don't forget, Achampong was the one who built the Akose base pond dam, which has really helped, because if there wasn't a second damming, you would have had all the water coming in directly. So there's a view that if you had more dams downstream, you could channel the water more laterally to communities which would need it for irrigation, and then the rate at which the water goes further downstream will be less. So that's a discussion the hydrologists will be having later on. Last thing I need to say is that when we did the program last time, we had a list of about 7 districts with about a number of communities that have been identified by the VRA as having been affected. Based on our work down across the country, we have updated that list and we have produced an interactive map that we are filling up very quickly. So later on we can show you that the districts affected have more communities being affected, and therefore the situation is much bigger than initially started. So those are the highlights from that.
Okay, wonderful. I'll come to you, Sky, but let me go to Fred first. Fred, I mean, you have been dipping in and out of the capital, and every time you go, you come back with footage, you and the team, of very, very alarming things. What have you seen? What have you discovered? And generally, what can you tell us about the situation that we're facing? And Bernard has given us a lot of the statistics, but from the human interest perspective, dealing with the people who are, because we're looking at, I mean, there are numbers, but there are human beings and emotions involved in this, real Ghanaians. What are some of the stories that you've gathered along your journey?
Well, from the start, we also thought it was just one of the normal flood stories. So we went in with that, I mean, without any anticipation for the situation getting to this level. But as we entered into the community, what really helped us much to really appreciate the gravity of the whole story is the fact that when Nidaku actually flew a drone up there, and we saw a number of houses totally submerged, that was when we were alarmed, and we were like, no, then the thing is quite bigger than we actually saw it. I mean, the videos that were sent to us by some residents, the whole story is quite bigger than that. So that really triggered the fact that we need to explore not only the North Tongue district, but we should extend to the South Tongue and Central Tongue as far as we can go. And on the very first day, the water actually cut off the road, and we needed to make a U-turn and back to use another route to enter into South Tongue and Central Tongue. So largely speaking to the residents, they are devastated. This is, all of them, what you hear, I mean, something that is common to all of them is the fact that this is the very first time this has hit so hard. And that tells you that they were truly not prepared. Some will tell you there is this engagement with VRA, and some would also tell you no, they've never had any such engagement with VRA. If not, they would have really make preparations, adequate move to be able to relocate to either relatives or some friends that are or in other adjoining communities. So largely the devastation has been huge. It started with just very few people being affected, but as we move along, we started with 8,000. We are now today talking about 30,000, about 30,000 as in residents being affected. And that should tell you that as there's no end in sight now, it equally means that the numbers may increase with time. Today, for instance, I've received calls from a number of other communities that I least expected or didn't even hear of them from the start. And the community leaders were telling me basically that, well, as of 1 week ago, when this whole incident started, they've not seen NADMO, they've never seen any government official in their community. And this is a community that we understand about 86 houses were inundated with floods, and the people are calling for immediate evacuation, and to some large extent, calling for relief items. So from time to time, the calls are coming through. I was so glad when Sanda went to the Adan East area yesterday to bring us those full reports, because they've been calling almost all the time. When are we coming to them? When is Citi TV? Because almost all the disaster that has happened over the period, we've been there to tell their story. Yeah. So we've left their footprints there, we've left our contacts, and they always do call us when they are faced with any challenge. Don't forget, the Adan East, that is where the estuary is. The Volta Lake meeting the sea. And they are feeling the impact. For instance, when there is low tide, that is when the river or the water is able to move into the sea. But when there is high tide and the water is unable to move in, it overflows its banks. And that is the level of devastation they're also facing, with their island communities totally submerged, and they are also being evacuated from time to time. So largely, the situation is getting bigger than we expected when we first walked into the community to tell the story.
Look, and thank you for you, Maru Sanda, Charles Kumi, I mean the whole team, the crew who've been out there on the ground bringing us the information we need. It's very commendable, it's very admirable, and I really can't imagine, I'm just looking at the images, I really can't imagine what the people are going through. There's no way to explain it. Sky, let me come to you. You've been following the story very closely as well. You're familiar with several of the communities that have been affected, especially in the Volta regional parts. What's your take on all this?
Well, I mean, I am really moved by the capacity of fellow humans to come to the aid of people in need. Because, I mean, if you watch the pictures and the voices and you hear the voices coming in from the parts of our country that have suffered the devastation we're talking about, it is clear that people are in serious distress. These areas are among some of the poorest communities we have. People trying to get by, going fishing, farming, and engaging in all kinds of menial activities just to survive. But then again, you also have huge businesses investing in agriculture, investing in aquaculture, livestock, and related activities. People have built businesses, including water treatment facilities in some of these areas. And these things have been wiped away in a matter of days. Now, that is going to take a lot of effort to help those people to recover, to heal, and get back onto their feet. And so when we put out a call that, look, people are struggling, people have been devastated. If you have very little effort to make, direct that effort towards us so that we can lead the campaign to bring relief to these people. And the human capacity to support one another is coming to play. And I am moved by how people are responding, companies are responding, organizations are responding. People with very little to spare are doing their very best to put a CD aside so they can help this cause. And it's mind-boggling. Yesterday, for instance, I spoke to a gentleman who came in from one of the orphanages we have here in the Greater Accra region, decided to bring some of the relief items that they also receive from other people in their orphanage, just so they could support. This is coming in from the kids of the home.
Kids themselves.
And narrating the reasons why he decided to support, he broke down in tears. I was moved by that. This morning we had the police officer. It is not like the police officers are treated very well in terms of the level of pay given to them. But he decided to set aside some funds to come and support. And on top of that, brought us bags of rice. I mean, that is what we wish to see in a society that cares about each other. And these moving stories tell me that there is hope for the future ahead.
All right, thank you. So let me come back to you, Bernard. You've been producing maps. You've literally been taking the Ghana map and dissecting it and dismembering it and giving us access to visually the different spaces that we're talking about that have been affected by this. So I want us to go to the screen behind you,
Okay.
so that we can start taking a look. I think, yes, we've tried our best to bring the stories to the people, but there are still a number of people who don't really understand and can't picture what we are talking about. So let's go to the screen.
So this is an updated database of the situation in the Southern Volta Basin.
Okay.
When we did this show on Tuesday, the VRA gave us a list of 7 affected districts. And the communities were also listed, but based on the calls we've gotten and the visits by our team, we've updated this list. So first thing I need to say is that we have we've managed to create a small map that shows you the areas involved. So these are all the places in red are the districts or constituencies south of the Atimpoku that have been affected in one way or the other.
That's a lot.
Right. If you put the total district population together based on the census, that's about 700,000 people. And the area is about 4,400 kilometers squared, all right? This is very important because these communities, I don't think there's a central place in Ghana which has the list of all communities. This list includes list Fred, Sander, and Co. have given us based on the interaction on the ground. Because the VRA list that we got did not have 83 communities, but I'm sure they're also updating their list. So this is very important. Now, let's start with the one that's closest to... So the way to see this is that the water flows from Atimpoku and comes down to the sea. This is the sea. So everywhere in red is affected.
Okay.
The river is a bit white. Then the region, this is the Volta region, this is the Eastern region, this is the Greater Accra region. This is how to look at this. So these are the districts affected. So let's start with the one closest to the situation, Eswojaman. Eswojaman is the district or constituency where you have Atimpoku, Akosombo, and Senchi. Population about 100,000 people. So far, we have seen 7 communities affected. The initial list VRA gave us had only 3 communities. But based on our visit, Charles and Fred went there. So what I'm saying is that this could be more.
Okay.
From the data we have, these are the communities affected. Abume, Ahimbrom, Jijokope, Jokbo, my favorite, Kukuntekpeji, and South Senchi. Fred could go to that screen and talk to you a bit about how this red strip looks in actuality, because this red strip is very small. But if they can put the Aswojaman map up there, Fred can show us. Right. But this is the way we've gone about it. So we have Aswojaman, we give the breakdown. Maybe Fred, you wait. Let me. Okay, yeah, fine. Fred can do that. So the map there would give you a more. You see how integrated the water is with Aswojaman. It's almost like the Volta River cuts it in 2. So if Fred can walk us through some of that before I come back here.
Good. So on the map now, you see Akosombo being the source of this whole spillage. So down to this side, that is where the impact is being felt. Okay. So if you are closer, the more closer you are, the more you would probably be hit by this water that is coming. But don't also forget, you can be closer but a bit apart from the river. So in that case, if you are on an elevated ground, you are a bit safe. But the more closer you are to the river, you will feel the impact. That is how come you see the Kukuntekpeji just beneath the dam, which is where the spillage is coming from. So they were so hit to the extent that most of their buildings have collapsed. And talk of their fishing, their fish farms or the fishing equipments, the nets and everything also breaking in the process. The fish stock they've done over the period that they were waiting to sell during December, which is Christmas, all of them have been washed away by the water. So generally, Kukuntekpeji is somewhere beneath the Akosombo Dam, and this is where it is. Then you narrow it down further, where you have the...
It goes all the way to South Senchi.
South Senchi.
So South
where you
Senchi,
have the Royal Senchi areas coming in.
So this is basically you're moving from Atimpoku down. So South Senchi, if you look for Senchi on your map, Senchi is way down there.
Yes.
So that's where you have South Senchi as well. So we have 7 communities affected and counting. The other one, which is very significant, is North Tongue. Indeed, North Tongue, if you want, is the epicenter of the crisis, which is why Okujeto Ablakwa has been very, very vocal.
Right.
And where Fred has been to Mepe a lot of times. Now, so far, we have 18 communities identified. It could be more. Indeed, when Sky interviewed Ablakwa yesterday, he said there were 20 camps. So we suspect that there could be more. But the communities that our team has been able to identify are Didokope, Afalekpo, Atiekope, Aveyime, Dofo Adidome, Fiakope, a lot of copes. Mepe is your main place to look at. Tokoton, Volokome. Now, Fred, the place Fred got a call from yesterday was Vome. In the original VRA list, Vome was not mentioned. So there are some communities that were affected but were sort of overlooked. And so based on what Fred has done, we have updated this list. Now, North Tongue has about 110,000 people. Area is 1,100. I don't know if you can go through what he has there to give you some more insights.
Okay. Let's take a look at yours.
So this is the North Tongue, where we have Bato as the district capital. And here you see Dofo Adidome. You have New Fujokope. Now this is where the whole incident is taking place. This is Asojama, as we pointed earlier, from that district, within the Akosombo enclave. Now when you narrow it down, you have the New Fojoku, then Togome. You have the Alabonu, Dofo Adidome, Volo. You have Sokoga. Yes, then you have Aveime. We have Vonu.
Then Bato, Dudame.
Bato.
And then
you see
Mefe.
it's even in red. Then you have Mefe. So here in Mefe. Now, the reason why the North Tongue has become more like the epicenter is that they have about 10 to 11 communities that are big in size compared to the other ones that probably they are satellite communities that are smaller and they are a bit further apart from the river. These people, all of them live so close to the river. For instance, in Mefe, the building that is even so far away from the river that got caught up was about some 40 to 50 meters.
That's
So
no
you are
distance
like
at all.
you are neck deep in the problem. So they are rightly sitting on the waterways or even on the buffer of the water bank, the water lake. So generally, the epicenter is this place, Mepe, that it now goes beyond to where we are entering to Central Tongue and South Tongue. So you see the communities, I can count not less than 10. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, like I mentioned. So they are all dotted along the banks of the river, and they are feeling the impact more because the buildings that you see over there are cluster in nature, like people are living so close to themselves and a whole lot. So generally, the issue here is widespread. Let me put it that way. It's widespread because the community is big. Mefe is a big town. They even call it Yevu Bloshi and stuff like that because they feel that place, a number of people have come to settle there. The population there is quite large in terms of size. And when you cross the bank, when you cross the river, you are in another bigger community. So Ablakwa, for instance, or the Honorable Ablakwa, anytime he's moving from Juapong, which is closer to the Sojama area, he either needs to go through, he will go through the eastern region. For instance, when he's living in Accra, he will go through the eastern region and then enter into his constituency by crossing the Adomi Bridge. Okay? But when he's going this way, which is the Aflau Road, and needs to branch at Sege, in case he needs to move from Sege, from Mefe, Bato, and these areas to Juapong, he needs to cross the river. And that is how his constituency is structured geographically.
Okay.
So Apioko,
So
we've started from the eastern region where we did Sojaman, all right? So Sojaman was the immediate place. Then we went to North Tongue. So just watch out for what is red. Now, you would have thought we'll go to Central Tongue. The next big one will be Sai Osudoku, which is the Greater Accra region. So Omar Sanda went to Sai Osudoku. Now, Sai Osudoku...
20 communities.
20 communities because we got, this is the latest updated list we got from the people in the constituency. 105,000 people, 20 communities affected, area 942 kilometers squared. Now, Shai Osudoku's shape is long. The district capital is Dodowa. So you have a lot of towns here who would not feel this at all. But the communities around, so when you're driving from, Afienya to Tema, from Tema, Afienya towards Akosombo, when you get to Asuchari Junction, those areas to your right, all of these are communities which are close to the water body. He will show you the map when they put up the map. But some of the places are Adakope, Asuchari.
I see my husband's hometown there, Kotoko.
Where is that?
Top right corner.
Top right, yeah. So that's your husband's hometown, Kotoko. There's Tokpo. Tokpo is close to what he was talking. There's Volivo. There was supposed to be a bridge that was being constructed. Then there's also a place called Kewum, Kajanya, Jokpo, Dofo. This is a confluence of people who are from Volta, who are Dangbes as well. In fact, Umaru Sanda is here. You come and take us through. So maybe, Sanda, you can just join us when you come. The reason the Shai Osudoku communities are more is because, of course, it's in the Greater Accra region.
Right.
And there's a lot of settlements. Don't forget, Asuchari does rice. Asuchari does some sugar cane. A lot of the people Sanda met are farmers.
And trade center.
Exactly. So here you have 20 communities so far, the latest updated list, and he can mention the names. I'm seeing places like Atabui, Atrobinya, Ashike Vikofe, Adakofe, Kajanya, no smoking. I don't know where you got that name from. Kewum, Domeliam. There's even some Asuchari name that I can't even mention. Asuchari Lomnava or something. And then Volivo. So you see, so you have Eastern region, Greater Accra region, and Volta region in a nice confluence. So very, very big area affected. Now, what we have not found out yet is the population per community that's being compiled. So this map will be complete if I told you that even though there are 20 communities here, maybe the number of people may not be as many as, because we are told that North Town has 10,000 people affected. Then the next largest district has less than 6,000.
Okay.
So this should not be the guiding point. Sanda, I think you should come. Sanda, please come. He just joined us. He's been on the field. Okay. If you can put up the Shai Osudoku map. No, let him just come. Don't worry, we are fine. Sandra, go to the screen.
Okay, good.
So I'll be here, you'll be there.
You're welcome.
Hello.
Let me just introduce you properly. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've been joined by Umaru Sanda Amadu. He's also with the Citi News Desk. He's a host of Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM, or Face to Face right here on Citi TV. And he has also been in the field right there on the ground, like Bernard has mentioned, particularly in the Shai Osudoku area. So he has a lot of that information. Sanda, you're welcome.
Thank you, Apio.
So what are we looking at here?
I see Bernard is struggling with mentioning.
Tali, what is Abu?
So it's actually it's Abu Vienupon.
Abu Vienupon.
Yes. So
okay.
there's a small stream they call Abu Vie. So
the
mouth of the Abu Vienu. Except that there are two Abu Vienus. So there's Abu Vienupon and then there's Abu Vienu.
Okay.
Then Adakope.
Okay.
And I explained to you why they use copy, because they are Dangbe. So
yes, copy for Dangbe.
So when you see Adakope, you are most likely seeing a settlement which is Ever community in a Dangbe land. So Adakope. Then we have Asikelivu Copper. Again, it's also Ever community. Asuchari town itself. So that's Asuchari town itself, which is where I went to.
So when you look on your map, the place with settlements on the top of the map is where Asuchari is. So on the right side, the most densely populated part is Asuchari. Then there's a large gap. Talk to us about that.
So if the river comes from Akosombo, the first district in Greater Accra it hits is Shai Osudoku, because it goes through the Lower Manya, which is what you have up there. Then it enters the Shai Osudoku district through Asuchari. Now it first enters an area called Natreku, which is the entry point before it goes to Asuchari. So Natreku, Asuchari, Akusi. These communities, they live on the river, they do rice farming, and that's why we have a lot of rice and sugarcane plantations in that area. So this is Asuchari. Now, the river descends further, and there are communities all along. So that's when you have places like Volivo, and then these are the community that you are trying to mention, the one that has Pon attached to it, is a community that is distant from the main road if you're going to Bato. However, it's very close to the river. That's why almost everybody in that community had to flee following the flood that came down there. It continues all the way to an area known as Dofo, and then we proceed further to Tokpo. Now, Tokpo is a safe haven.
Okay.
So that is why the NADMO designated Tokpo as a place where they should go to in case there's flooding. And that's why people have to move from places like Abouvier Kope, Abouvier Pon, Asigelivi. All of these people have moved to Tokpo. That is the place where they've been asked to go to and go and stay safely. So that's why Tokpo is very important. Kajanya is also a stream, so the mouth of the Kaja. That's Kajanya means.
But why no smoking? Kajana, no smoking. What's that?
It means it's possibly just an area known as no smoking. But you know how we name communities. Kewum means inside the sand.
Kewum.
Yeah, Kewum. So on top
K
of the
in
sand.
Ewa is sand.
So
But
the way we
Zango is
have,
K-wum.
no, Ewa is Ke. And this is K.
Kewum, okay.
So Kewu is like sand. So it's a sandy area.
Okay.
Now when it is sandy, then it means it's either by the river or by the beach.
What is Kotoko doing here?
I don't know how this name came about.
This is Apioko's husband's hometown.
Yes.
Kotoko.
Kotoko Salon.
So I don't know how Kotoko was given the name it was given, but suffice it to say that a lot of these communities share names with other communities.
Okay.
So the names may intermix in the two languages.
The name Tokpo you keep mentioning is actually Tokpo.
Tokpo.
Actually, so my father and some people who have lived in that hood for many years, they actually say Topo. That's how they. So there's a man called Mahmoud Topo. That's how they call him. When I was a baby, they used to call him Mahmoud Topo. It is only recently that I saw it is spelled Tokpo.
Yeah, it's actually Tokpo. So
What does it
it's a
mean?
land in
The
middle,
hill by the
river.
by the
yeah.
hill by the
Oh,
Ekpo.
Ekpo. Ekpo means hill near.
So that's why you see. So that's why it is a safe haven.
Oh, because Ekpo in Ebe is a hill.
Yeah. Yes.
So this is the hill next to the water.
The water, yeah.
Which is why the place. Oh, this is amazing.
In fact, when I
That's
went there, I
amazing.
noticed that we were overlooking the river.
Yeah.
So it would be difficult for the water to come up to the community where they were, the school center that they have been given.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's just the general picture
Okay.
in Shai Osudoku district.
So Apioko, as we move along, we've already done Asojaman, and I need to just remind people of where we've come from. Asojaman is the first place we went to. Then we went to North Tong, which is the second place. And then we've done Shai Osudoku, which is the third. Now, I need to deal with Central Tong and South Tong quickly.
Okay.
Then I'll come to Ada, where Sanda went as well.
Okay.
So Fred will go back to the screen. Let's go to Central Tong, which I have put up here, which is next to South Tong. 10 communities affected. It could be more. 83,000 population, people, 677 kilometers squared. Fred, the capital of Central Tong is what?
Adidome.
Adidome. Talk to us about what we have. Ahokpo, Ahokpe, Akpokofe,
Bernard, what's
Atem Kofe.
the meaning of Adidome, by the way?
Adidome. Only Sky will know.
You don't know Adido.
Adido is baobab.
So the baobab fruit is called
They are
Adido.
meaning
Okay.
there, so
And Nunya Adidoe,
Adidoe,
American.
Asimileke.
Okay.
Adidoe.
So knowledge like a baobab tree.
Yes.
Wonderful. There's a place called Kepenu, I believe that's the name.
Kepenu.
Bogede. Bogede. What's Avadiwe?
Avaduwe Kume. So
Forgive.
this is also an island community.
An
as
island.
As we speak, they've evacuated almost everyone on that island because the island is underwater as we speak.
Atem Kope, Mafidugame,
Yes.
Siama Koma, and
Siama
Old Bakba.
Kome.
You have to help us here. You know this.
Yes, Siamakume and Old Bakba. So Old Bakba is one of the safe havens for the people. Talk of Adidome, that is the capital, is also a safe haven because those in Siamakume, which is also another island community, they've relocated them to Adidome Farm Institute. As we speak, they are all gathered there. Those at Abadiwe Kume, they have been taken to the Old Bakba township to receive their relief items and some level of care. Then Kepenu, Devime. Devime is also one of the hardest hit places. Now, Central Tong largely, the communities that are closer to the river are few.
That's why they haven't been as
Yes.
hard hit as North Tong.
Exactly the case. Because the moment the water is approaching Central Tong, it veers to South Tong,
Oh.
where you have Sogakope.
So only a few central
exactly
Tong
the case.
communities have been affected.
So those that are closer to North Tong, they were hardest hit in Central Tong. So, for instance, when I got this map, this is what I did. I just drew a straight line this way to paint a picture for people that all those here are safe.
Okay.
Those here, they are affected.
So Adidome and below are in trouble.
Adidome and below are in trouble, and above going to so when you take this road, you are going to Mafikumase, going to Adaklu. You are on
So
your way
those
to
who
Ho.
use the Sogakope road to Ho,
Yes.
will use Mafikumase.
Exactly the case. So they get to Adidome, then they make their way to Achemfo, Mafichawla. Then they are heading north to.
All right. Let's quickly move to South Tong as we wrap this, and then we'll come down. So as I said, here we are in North Tong. Let's go to South Tong, which is the next one. Again, you have 14 communities. It's much bigger. It's more urbanized. So if the 3 Tong constituency, South Tong is more urbanized. This is the constituency which has Sogakope,
Exactly.
lots of tourist attractions. Now, let me mention, Fred, can you see from here?
Yes.
What are the names we have here?
Akopenu, Agodome, Agome, Alikekope. We have
Amutinu.
Amutinu, Asidowi, Avegweme, Fievie, Sogakope North, Sokwe currently, that's where the Volta Bridge is, the lower Volta Bridge is.
Got a few calls from there
Yes,
today.
and they are raising alarm because as of now, they are generally not having good drinking water. The water totally is contaminated and they can't really access it.
Tefle.
Definitely, that's where you have the former late president, Rollins. That's where his house is. Definitely. And you know, Rollins, we understand he loves water. So his house is just at the bank of the river.
So this is Rollins' house.
I'm suspecting probably that place will also be.
If you are driving to
affected in a way.
Sogakope, you get to a place where they do
Vume, where they do the
flower pots.
the
That's
vase.
Vume.
Vume. So those two communities are just closer to each other.
Then there's Chachukope
Chachukope
and
then you have the
Zewenu.
Zewenu.
Will you say South Tong has been more affected than Central Tong?
No, Central Tong is more affected than, in terms of human habitation, Central Tong is affected.
More.
But when you talk of South Tong, we are talking about the tourist attractions that are dotted along the banks of the river. Talk of Holy Trinity Spa, Sogakope Beach Resort, Cisneros. Talk of the, there are other, beautiful facilities just along the banks of the river. And when you use that particular stretch, it's untarred, but you can connect directly to join this community where Egypt is coming from. Dabala. Very well. You can join Dabala, then you are on your way to Angloga to Keta.
So, Piako, if you look on your map that he has, on the left of South Tong is Adan East, where Sanda went as well. And then on the right at the bottom is Anglon, which is neighbored by Keta, which is where Sky will come and explain what's going on. So I think we can move to Adan East.
Okay.
And then we'll come to Anglon later. So please take me to Adan East, which is here. 10 communities so far and counting. This list was updated because of Umaru Sanda. And take note, Adan East, I'm at Adan East, please, not Anglon. Adan East, please stop changing my... There's an invisible hand messing up
the hand of
work.
God.
So Adan East borders the estuary. Put up the Adan East map for Sanda up there. Sanda, what are the names here? Ajim?
So Adan is Ajim. Afleve, again, you see, I told you that the Volta River is shared by the Dangbes and the Ever. So we have Afleve, definitely an Ever community. Agbove, remember this community was mentioned in the other place. So I'm suspecting it's a community that's a boundary one. Agohom Panya. Agohom is in Divan.
Divan, oh, that's his name. Agohom. He's
That's
from
his
Segi.
name. So I don't know. So Panya means the dam. So the dam of Agohom. So
what are these guys
someone
doing?
has a...
Somebody, why are you...
There's an invisible hand trying to...
Just leave it alone. Don't touch it.
So Agohom Panya, the dam of Agohom. Alose Chekopi. Then we have Anazome. Azizanya. Azizanya is
an island.
Yeah, Azizanya is one of the island communities that have been...
It's close to Adafua.
So Adafua.
Adafua,
even though it's spelled Fua, is for that's the big Adan after Adafua. So we have Kewuno. Now, Kewuno is the top of the sand.
Okay.
Remember we had Kewu at the other plant.
Kewuno.
So Kewumi, then this is Kewuno.
And there's Kewuse.
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 So the back of the sandy area, or maybe the back of the beach. And then we have Tuani Kopi. Tuani is a earring.
Wow.
So I don't know if someone was living there who was selling earrings.
sell earrings.
So Toyani, Kopi. And then we have, well, Sokwe is not in that community. So these are communities, there are 30 plus islands just in
30 plus islands.
30 plus islands just around the estuary where the river enters the sea in Adan. But only 8 are in Adan East. So the rest would be in South Tongue. So they would have to run shifts in monitoring that area. Now, the critical nature of this area is that is where the river terminates in the sea. And when it gets closer to the sea, for some reason, it splits itself into multiple lanes and then creating islands in the middle. So
people live on these islands.
So people live in this. So some for leisure purposes, some fishing communities. People would go and buy the area. They have an island home. So they take a boat from Adanfor to go inside there. Now, there's Azizanya, another key island. All these people there, because the water was rising, it was covering up their island so that the river was going to become one. And then Nadmo had to move in with canoes and boats and go and move.
By the way, is Aziza in Ewe? Aziza is Dwarf.
Aziza is Dwarf in Ewe.
Is that the same in Dangwe?
In Dangbe they call it Abodo.
Because Azizanya, they mean something in our language.
Yes,
Maybe the island of dwarfs or something. Aziza's guy. Aziza the matter for dwarf.
It's possible that it's an Ewe community.
It's a different matter.
Azizanya.
Dwarf knows.
Yes. So the dwarf.
Oh.
Because, but
or Azizanya, the matter of the dwarf.
I don't know.
That could
That's
also
the Mafisai do.
Depending on
Azizanya.
all right, so Sanda, where did you go yesterday? And is that on this map that is next to you?
So I went to Adan.
Big Adan is on your right.
Let me try and make sense of the. Do
And
you see Kase anywhere?
Yes.
Where is Kase?
Come-
It's
so that I
very
can get my
close.
bearing. Good.
Yes,
So
very
Kase is Adan Junction.
Okay.
If you are going to Aflao,
Okay.
the junction to Adan is Kase.
Okay.
And then you drive through. So Kolekope, Bedekumi. You come down this way, all the way to Big Adan.
Okay.
Now, Big Adan is in the heart. It's not necessarily on the sea. But if you go down, then you come to Adanfor, and then you descend down, and the map is not taking you. There's Okansi copy. Then you see Azizanya.
Where is Songo? Where the salt is?
Songo is on the way to Sege.
Oh, so that's Adan West.
Yes.
This is Adan East.
Yes.
This is
Even
Adan
though
East.
it's Adan, but it's on the way to Sege. So
Okay.
they also have the sea, but they have tributaries that come through from the Volta River that feed that area.
Okay.
And they've said to me that there's a major tributary that comes there. It has overflown, but it has not affected their production.
Wonderful.
So that's what they have said to me. So they are kind of safe. Now, if you look at a lot of all these communities, Pute, Totokope,
Okansi Kopi,
Okanse Kope,
Totime Kopi.
Totime Kope is a very popular town in that area. Anya Kope, Okanse Kope, Azizanya, and then it keeps going down, and then they meet with the South Tongue people. However, a number of island communities, and I was saying they've always been brought to Azizanya, which is also just close to the river. And there are people who are living in Azizanya who have had to leave their homes because the water has entered their home, even though they are an inland community. For instance, their KG, which is their kindergarten, is a bit far off from the main school, which has been served as a center. I don't know whether the school had to be moved. I've not been able to ask that question, but they are the ones who are hosting the people who have been moved away. The assemblyman you spoke to this morning, he would be somewhere around here.
Okay.
That is where Aqua Safari is. They call it Ajokpo. That area was flooded and his members are worried, and that's what he was complaining about.
Wonderful. So I think the last one we'll do is Angolon. Now,
Okay.
Sky,
So that's Sky's
last time
jurisdiction.
we came, we did Keta, but the reason we added Angolon and not Keta was that Angolon is what borders South Tongue and what also borders
Adan East.
Now, we could not find the map for Angolon on its own because usually what they do is that they subsume it under Keta. So you won't get an Angolon map, at least based on the research we had, unless you have a general area of the area. But we got 5 communities listed. It could be more. Now, Sky, talk to us about Anyanui, Donokoji, Jita, Fuveme, and Sokboy. At least these names. Where are these places? And
Sokwe is not there.
okay, Sokboy is different. Sorry,
Sokwe is
forgive me.
South
Tongue, yeah.
No, it takes us back. Forgive me. So Anyanui, Jita, Donokoji, Fuveme. Are these things correct? Do you know what these places are?
Sokwe is not part of it, but Donokochi, Anyangui, Fuveme, and Jita, they are all communities that you'll find within the Anglo constituency. Now, these are amazingly some of the most beautiful places you will ever be in Ghana.
Really?
In terms of the quality of the beaches you find there, the serenity of the atmosphere, and then also the beauty of the beaches along that side. Of course, sandbanks have developed along some of these areas, including the Fuveme areas and the Anyangui areas, which sometimes restrict the free flow of water from upstream into the estuary, which is the confluence between the sea.
So,
and
which is the closest Anglo town to the estuary?
Fuveme.
Fuveme.
Yes.
I see.
Yeah.
Do they also get affected by tidal waves?
They do. In fact, Fuveme and Donokoji, Anyangui, Jita, all of these communities in the recent past have had one issue or the other having to do with either tidal waves or flooding.
So, Apioko, the reason I put Anglo on the map is that Anglo is bordering the estuary.
Right.
Anglo then also has the sea.
Right.
And Anglo also has tidal waves. So it's ensconced here. Now, yesterday, Sky, if you can put up the Keta map.
There's also the Keta Lagoon.
Yes, so what I wanted
there.
to do was to just show something next, I'll explain. So this Anglo, Keta is the next one here.
Okay,
so if you can
so
put
we
up the
have the
Keta.
Keta
So
map
Sky,
there.
the neighbor to Anglo is Keta. So if you can go to the screen and then walk us through from Anglo to Keta all the way and how the lagoon worsens the situation, right? So you already have Anglo, which is next to the sea, next to the estuary. Then Anglo's neighbor, so the road from Anglo, I think you can just walk us through. Anglo is down from your left.
Yeah.
Walk us through how the lagoon also gets affected by what is happening from the bottom and possibly what is happening from the Anglo side.
Okay,
So,
so
Sky,
this...
maybe starting by outlining the communities that Bernard has on his screen. Sort
They
of
are in
outlining
Anglo,
them.
but this is the Keta map. I
Yes.
couldn't find the Anglo map for
So
some
Jita
reason.
is down there somewhere. you
Yeah,
know,
so
you can-
Jita is somewhere here. You see, it is a coastal community. Then you have Jita Agbeledomi, so in between farms, Agbeledomi. Then you have Anyangui, which is actually at the tip of the estuary to a huge extent. And you have the Volta River running through. You see the Volta, this is the Volta River running through. So if it goes deep down, it empties into the Atlantic Ocean. Then you have Atoko and Vuti. From Vuti, you come to Angloga. The red you see is the main road connecting these communities right up to Keta, which used to be the regional capital in colonial days.
Yes.
Before it was subsequently moved to the whole
But is that the N1?
No, it's not the N1.
Okay.
This is...
The N1 takes you to Dabala, then you turn right.
Exactly. Now, what you have is that this is the area that you normally would see the Kita or the Keta Sea Defense Project.
Okay.
So you would notice that a lot of the communities here have been under siege from tidal waves. And then you also have water coming in from the Volta River. So once there is so much water inundating these communities and there is high tide, tidal waves are coming in creating problems. The water is not going in as you would expect, as in water coming in from upstream, downstream. It's not going into the sea, emptying into the sea as you would expect. What that does is that it creates problems for these communities. That is why these communities are constantly under siege. And you hear them say that, look, we need a new defense, sea defense wall. So the Honorable Member of Parliament for the Ketu South constituency, Jifa Gomashi, has been constantly talking about the fact that there needs to be an extension of the sea defense wall towards the Ketu South constituency, where you also have communities that constantly gets battered because of the siege that we continue.
I wanted to say something, Apioko. So Keji is up north. I went to Keta with Jifa Bampo as Volta Tourism Advisor. It says her hometown, where her house is now under the sea.
Wow.
Where she used to go as a child. The part of Keji left, she's not from there. So you won't find her house. All right, it's quite a serious situation.
Wow.
And this strip of land that Sky is talking about, if it's not preserved, it will be lost because the lagoon and the sea will merge and all of this. Meanwhile, there are some very beautiful, for example, if you go to Tegbi, there's a beautiful beach resort there. There's a historical relic where has a very nice, what do you call it?
Lighthouse.
Lighthouse. All of these things we will be lost if something drastic is not done, and if we also don't change our behavior in terms of how we exploit our natural resources. So this, in a nutshell, is a geographical view. So if you go to the map, finally, we have given you 7 districts, and there could be more. We didn't add Lower Manya, we didn't add Yilo, but if you look at it very carefully, those are the key areas that have been affected.
Even Upper Manya.
Upper Manya is also...
Upper Manya also borders.
Yeah, if I had my map, but I think your battery is gone.
Let me just make a quick comment. Bernard, you noticed that there was a comment that we received much earlier today from someone who has a great understanding of the Anglo area situation.
Yeah.
And for instance, this gentleman works with one of these international organizations.
Yes.
And visited the community not too long ago. And then he makes the point that due to the silting in the Anglo area, because of the situation between the sea and then the Volta Lake, communities from Adan and Anyangwi and other villages near the estuary had to mobilize to dig this canal to be able to commute between both sides of the river, particularly going to Anyangwi market to sell their stuff, which includes mangroves harvested for firewood and building materials. Now, let me make a quick comment on that. There's a problem with harvesting the mangroves because they play an important role in the ecological, or the what's the more appropriate what do you call it, technical term, in the ecology of the community. They help to ensure that erosion doesn't take place as to create problems for people living close by. So I think an important call needs to be made to people who live in these areas, that it is not best practice harvesting the mangroves. Leave them there.
Because they are the sponge of the earth.
Exactly. The moment you continue to take them away, erosion will come. In an age of climate change and sea rises and all the things we're talking about, there will be problems. So those people, if indeed they are engaged in something like that, they would have to end it.
Sky, talking about harvesting from the river, another thing I observed in Adan yesterday, so there are people who harvest oyster in the river. These people, I'm told, are opposed to desilting the river. And desilting the river is actually one of the big solutions we have to look out for. Now, if you desilt it, the hole becomes deep enough to collect so much water. But they will not accept because they need to harvest the oyster. And the oyster at the bottom of the river. So they have to go dive down and bring the oyster out. They're saying that if you do that, you interfere. However, I've also been educated that if you desilt, the oyster would only go to the rock bottom. It does not mean that there will be no oyster. So they need to really allow for the desilting to happen. So, desilting the river is what we need.
So Apioko, in summary, so far, based on what we have, 83 communities, could be more. But all the places in red we've spoken about, take note that if I'm not saying the dam will break, if the dam were to break, this is the Volta River, it's going to come all over. Even parts of Adan West and Tema will be affected. Right. We don't want that to happen. So it's a question of balancing people's right to life and keeping a resource that if it gets damaged, all of us will be in trouble. So in a nutshell, this is what we have so far. We are updating the list, and this is what is guiding our campaign to raise resources, because if you have 83 communities in about 8 major districts affected in this massive way by this, you know that it's a national challenge and not a local challenge.
It is. It absolutely is. And thank you, Brenna. Thank you, all of you, for taking us to geography class today. But before we go, and we'll be wrapping up shortly here, there's a reason why, and you've seen the reason why, we're asking you to make contributions. And we don't need much from you. There are certain things that, in collaboration with the relevant authorities, we've outlined that are priority at the moment. One of those things is water. Fred has mentioned it, Sanda has mentioned it yesterday or Monday, Charles mentioned it, the fact that many of the people who've been affected don't have potable water to drink at the moment. So we're looking at sachet water, bottled water, essentially water that has been taken through a process so that it's safe for them to drink, to bath, and to do all the things they need to do with water. Detergent and toiletries, also very important. Now, we've spoken about several shelters that have been set up, or safe havens. They need mattresses. They need blankets so that they can keep warm and at least have a bit of a soft bed to lie on during this time. We're also looking at medical supplies, also very important. The Ghana Medical Association, Ghana Health Service, lots of medical authorities have today, throughout the week, been talking about the fact that we're looking at cholera, we're looking at typhoid for several reasons because of what has happened. Medical supplies are very important. Let's not forget also that a lot of the medical facilities, CHIPS compounds, all these places have been submerged. And so there are pop-up medical facilities that are being set up, and medical supplies are of importance in that case. And then food. I'm sure many of these people have not been eating properly, so we need packed food, canned food. And then we're also learning today that we need cooking utensils, because even as they make it to their safe havens, these people have lost everything. They don't have what they need to even put the food into a state where they can eat it and share with their families. And then if you're looking to do cash donations and you have a mobile money number, 0550-900-006. 0550-900-006 is the number. The name on the account is Omni Media. And then you can use the reference flood support. And if you have more questions, you're not sure, maybe you have some clothes, there's something that you have that's not on the list that you're seeing on the screen, and you want to know if you can bring it through, call the same number, 0550-900-006. 0550-900-006. And indeed, you can go to our website as well. A lot of people have been reaching out to us from outside of Ghana, asking how they can make payment. They don't have mobile money for obvious reasons. Is there a bank account number? All of that. Go to our website. If you don't want to call the number, you can also have access to us, and we will answer your questions. Yeah. I've been here this afternoon with Bernard Avler. He's the host of the Citi Breakfast Show here at Citi FM, and also The Point of View, which airs tonight. I'm sure there'll be more interesting things I'll be discussing tonight at 9 p.m. on Citi TV. Richard Della Sky, he's also on the Citi Breakfast Show and with the Citi News team. Umar Sanda Amadou, who joined us along the way with the Citi News desk as well, host of Eyewitness News on Citi FM, face-to-face here on Citi TV, and the man, Fred Duhoski, we call him here, who's been on the ground with several other members of the team, bringing the stories to us so that we can give you the statistics and the numbers as we've done this afternoon. This has been our special coverage of what's happening in the communities that have been affected by the Volta Dam spillage here in Ghana. We'll be on air again tomorrow at 3 p.m. and on Friday as well as things unfold to bring you more updates. My name is Apioko. Have a good afternoon.